everyone! This video is on the concept of how to teach your dog leave it from little bits of food or trash or perhaps rabbit poop that he might encounter when on a walk with you on or off leash. Now, it's extremely important to first work on some foundation behaviors, and I have video tutorials on how to train all of them in the video description below. And those videos are the attention game, the recall to build your relationship with your dog, as well as the leash pressure game and the leave it exercise. By working on the leash pressure game and the leave it exercise, you can then have the foundation steps for teaching your dog leave it, a default leave it from things in the environment. Say, for example, out on a walk, if you never want your dog to pick up trash or little bits of food when out and about, you can teach your dog the concept that everything on the ground is leave it unless you specifically tell your dog he can get those items. A very important question that I get asked frequently is if someone's on a walk with their puppy or adult dog and they're training them to leave things alone when out and about, and then the dog finds something, picks it up, and then the owner cues the dog to drop the item or leave the item and then gives the dog a treat, won't that teach the dog to go and find trash to pick up so he can then drop it in order to get a treat? And the answer is yes, that could possibly happen, especially if the dog is ignored and never reinforced at other moments during the walk. If the highlight of the walk is picking up trash, getting told to drop it, and then getting reinforcement, then it's really going to reinforce some part of that behavior of walking over and picking up whatever it is. So, training your dog when out and about on a walk where you can't see what's in the grass and they go and pick something up is not the most effective way to train a dog. The way that you want to train when using positive reinforcement is you don't want the dog to be creating errors or doing the behavior you don't want first. So the behavior that you don't want is the dog going towards whatever it is with the intention of sniffing, eating, or picking up the object. Instead, you want the cue of seeing that item in the environment or smelling it. You want that to be the cue to do a default leave it rather than go and investigate. So to train that, the best way to do this is to set up training sessions where you're proofing the behavior in fun games where you know where all the treats are hidden and you can make it fun and easy for your dog to have impulse control walking past those distractions in order to gain a treat rather than the confusion when out and about on a walk of finding something amazing and then being told to drop it and then getting reinforcement for that. So what I suggest is that if you've noticed that your dog is starting to have a problem with picking up rabbit poop or little bits of trash, instead of trying to train your dog on the walk, you go home and you set up training sessions where you really proof the behavior of teaching your dog the default leave it, of walking past those distractions on leash, off leash, doing recalls past that distraction, doing tricks near that distraction where the dog can completely leave it alone, confidently and happily. Then, when on a walk and your dog goes towards something to go pick it up, you can use your cue leave it, or if your dog picks something up, you can use your cue drop it, but then you're not going to give a treat right after the dog has gone to investigate those items. Instead, you can wait a little bit and perhaps ask the dog for a behavior that he's really good at, maybe 30 seconds later, and then reinforce that behavior. And make sure that on the walks, you're not just constantly reinforcing your dog for leaving things after they've already initiated going towards them. Instead, what you could do, if you wanted to work on a walk on the problem with your dog picking up stuff, is you go and you find a distraction, you cue your dog to leave it, and you can mark and reinforce your dog immediately as they understand the game, rather than waiting for the dog to first start doing the behavior you don't like to interrupt it, if that makes sense. So the whole point of teaching using positive reinforcement is setting the learner up to do the behaviors you want them to do and then reinforce them. Here we're out on a walk and wish the dog ahead picks something up. I cue her to drop it, but I'm not going to give her a treat right now because we've done lots of training sessions for drop and leave it. Instead, I investigate what it is and I make a plan that on the way back I can work on a leave it game walking past whatever it is. And it happens to be a fishbone. Here I'm putting treats into a plastic vegetable container to use as a distraction to teach the concept of a default leave it from food in the environment. First, you can warm your dog up with the attention game or recall games before the distractions are present, and then while the distractions are present.
Leave it. Awesome.
When your dog's warmed up, you can then practice your leave it cue. The goal is to get to the point where you don't have to say leave it anymore, and the environment, the situation, is cueing your dog to leave it. So you can practice lots of different scenarios of leaving the treats on the floor, in the containers, out of the containers. You can practice calling your dog past the treats, walking at your side past the treats, and asking for different behaviors and tricks near the treats. If you've not yet trained the leave it cue using positive reinforcement, I suggest watching the video I've linked in the description below on how to train this, as it goes into detail of each step and what to do if things go wrong.
Good girl. Down. Good. Good job. Good girl. Free.
I like to work on the leash pressure game first with new puppies and adult dogs as the first game to teaching the leave it when out and about, because what it does is it teaches your dog what to do if they were to pull towards something that they were interested in, and we're basically teaching the dogs that the cue of feeling the pressure on leash simply means orient back to the handler. I suggest watching the full tutorial on how to train this. Here's some footage of me working on a leave it game when out and about with my puppy Halo. I've set up little blocks of cheese on this windowsill, and at first I'm giving him a verbal cue to leave the cheese, and then next I'm marking and reinforcing him for doing a default leave it past the cheese. Now, a lot of people have written to me specifically asking for a tutorial on how to teach their dog to leave rabbit poop for competitions. So I really suggest that you use a poop bag and pick up some poop, put it into a plastic container to use as a distraction first, because it is so small and hard to see that your dog can quickly pick up a piece and eat it without you intending. Also, by using the container that you worked on the leave it exercises with the smell of the rabbit poop in to begin with, it will set your dog up for success to understand the concept that rabbit poop is not on the menu. If your dog has a history of foraging for rabbit poop at a specific location or during a specific time, say for example when you let your dog out in your backyard alone, understand that those scenarios will be the cue for your dog to eat rabbit poop. So what you need to do is make sure during your training process that you use management and prevention in between training sessions.
Good girl. Down. Leave it.
Here you can see I sprinkled the rabbit poop back into the grass, and now I'm asking her for behaviors, including a down, which is one of the hardest behaviors because their face is right near the poop. As you can see, that this exercise is very similar to the one I did in my living room using dog treats. So if you work on the dog treat exercise a lot to where it's easy for your dog to leave dog treats, this exercise is going to be much easier for your dog.
Down. Good. Let's go.
I hope you found this video helpful for your training. If you'd like to support my work, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. You can also become a supporting member of channel Kiko Pup by clicking the join button. See you later, guys.